Have you ever experienced this strange moment? You stop texting her. You stop chasing. You disappear into silence. Days pass, maybe weeks. And just when you begin focusing on your own life again, your phone lights up with a message from the one person you thought had already walked away. Hey, how have you been? At first, it feels surprising. Maybe even exciting. But if you are a man who has lived long enough and learned from love, you begin to realize something deeper is happening. Because when a woman comes back after your silence, it is rarely just a casual message. Sometimes it is curiosity. Sometimes it is confusion. And sometimes, it is the quiet beginning of regret. But here is the truth most men never understand. What you do after she comes back will determine whether she respects you, or leaves again. Welcome to the channel, Stoic Love Wisdom. This is where you will find valuable lessons and tips to help you build a truly lasting love. In today's video, we will explore, after being silent, she came back to text. This is the reaction that made her regret it, with real stories and insight. Don't miss the advice that can change the way you perceive and live in love. You will definitely feel more comfortable when you find a quiet place and put on your headphones. Let yourself relax and be ready to receive the positive messages in today's video. Are you ready to start this journey? Let's start together. Part 1. When silence changes the game. There is a moment every man eventually faces, a moment when the conversation stops. No more long messages. No more late-night explanations. No more chasing. Just silence. And strangely, that silence often does something that words never could. She comes back. One day your phone lights up. A simple message appears. Hey, how have you been? Or maybe something even more casual. I saw something today that reminded me of you. At first glance, it may look innocent. Even warm. But if you've lived long enough, loved deeply enough, and lost enough times to learn from it, you begin to recognize something beneath those words. It is not just curiosity. It is not just nostalgia. Sometimes, it is regret knocking softly at your door. But here's the truth most men never learn until it's too late. The moment she comes back is not the moment you should celebrate. It is the moment you should be the most calm, the most disciplined, and the most aware. Because what you do after her message determines whether she sees you as a man she can respect, or a man she can return to whenever she feels lonely. And many men fail this test. Not because they are weak men. But because they never learned the power of silence. Why silence changes everything. Most men think attraction is built through constant communication. They believe if they explain themselves enough, love harder, try harder, give more attention, eventually she will understand their value. But attraction does not grow in noise. It grows in space. When a man is always available, always responding instantly, always trying to fix things, he unknowingly removes the one thing that makes a woman feel his presence. Scarcity. The Stoics understood something about human nature long before modern dating advice existed. They believed that what is rare becomes valuable. And what is always available becomes invisible. When you stop chasing, the dynamic changes. Your absence forces her mind to do something powerful. It begins to fill the silence with thoughts. Questions appear in her mind. Why isn't he texting anymore? Did he move on? Was I wrong about him? Why do I suddenly miss him? And here's the ironic truth. The more a man tries to convince a woman of his value with words, the less she feels it. But when he quietly withdraws his attention, she begins to search for his value herself. This is not manipulation. This is human psychology. And the Stoics would say it simply. A man should never beg to be valued. He should become the kind of man whose absence reveals his worth. The silence most men are afraid of. Let me be honest with you. Silence is uncomfortable. Especially when you care about someone. Your mind starts creating stories. Maybe she's happier without me. Maybe she forgot about me. Maybe I should just text her first. So most men break their own silence. Not because they want to, but because they cannot sit with uncertainty. But the man who truly understands relationships learns something important. Silence is not weakness. Silence is emotional control. It shows that your world does not collapse simply because someone stopped responding. It shows that your identity is not dependent on her attention. And this is exactly what makes a man mysterious again. When you disappear emotionally, without anger, without drama, without begging, you do something rare. You step outside the usual pattern she expects. Because most men react in predictable ways. They argue. They plead. They explain. They chase. But the man who simply becomes quiet becomes difficult to read. And humans are naturally drawn to what they cannot easily understand. Why she eventually reaches out. Now here is something many men misunderstand. When a woman messages you after a long silence, it is rarely random. Women are emotionally intuitive. They feel shifts in connection very deeply. When your attention disappears, she feels it. And over time, curiosity begins to grow. She may start remembering small moments. Your laugh. Your conversations. The way you made her feel safe. But more importantly, she begins comparing. Comparing you to other men. Comparing the connection she had with you to the attention she receives elsewhere. And sometimes, what she discovers surprises her. She realizes something she didn't notice before. You were not just another man chasing her. You were a man who had the strength to walk away. And that realization can create a quiet kind of respect. Not loud. Not dramatic. But real. That is often when the message arrives. A simple text. Casual. Careful. Testing the waters. Because she doesn't know what version of you she will meet now. The old version. The man who was always there. Or someone new. Someone calmer. Someone harder to access. The critical mistake most men make. Now listen carefully. This is the moment where many men destroy everything they built through silence. The moment her message appears, they react emotionally. They reply instantly. They show excitement. They start long conversations again. They give her the exact same energy she had before. And in doing so, they quietly erase the mystery their silence created. Because attraction is not just about connection. It is also about uncertainty. When she realizes you are still exactly the same man, waiting exactly where she left you, the tension disappears. And when tension disappears, so does curiosity. This is why experienced men understand something simple. The real test is not when she leaves. The real test is when she comes back. Because how you respond in that moment tells her everything about your growth. Have you changed? Have you become stronger? Or were you simply waiting in the dark, hoping she would return? A Stoic man thinks differently. A Stoic man does not panic when a message arrives. He does not rush. He does not try to impress. He remains calm. Not because he is playing games, but because his life continued moving forward during the silence. His attention is valuable now. Not easily given. Not easily taken. And when he replies, it is simple. Grounded. Relaxed. Because he understands something most men forget. You cannot rebuild attraction by returning to the same dynamic that destroyed it. You rebuild it by becoming someone slightly different. Someone who values his time. Someone who is emotionally stable. Someone who does not revolve around her attention. And this shift, small but powerful, is often what makes a woman feel something unexpected. Respect. And respect, in many cases, is the first step toward regret. In love, sometimes we don't need too many promises, but just a little understanding and a heart that knows how to listen. It is the experiences, both happy and sad, that help us mature and know how to love more fully. Here, I want to contemplate those things with you, so that each step in the journey of love becomes more clear-headed and peaceful. If you feel that what I share is valuable, please click like to support this video. And if this is your first visit, please click subscribe and turn on the notification bell, so you don't miss the next insightful perspectives on love. I also really want to hear from you. What do you like most about today's story? Leave a comment below, because who knows, your experience might be a great source of encouragement for someone else who is listening. And now, let's continue to explore what's waiting for you. Part 2, the response that changes everything. When her message finally appears on your phone, something strange happens inside most men. Their heartbeat speeds up. Their mind begins racing. Old emotions that seemed quiet during the silence suddenly wake up again. Memories return. Hope returns. And before they even realize it, their fingers are already typing. This is where many men lose the quiet advantage they built during weeks, sometimes months, of silence. Because the moment you react emotionally, you reveal something important. You were still waiting. And when a woman senses that a man has been waiting for her return, something subtle happens inside her perception of him. His value quietly drops. Not because she is cruel, but because human nature often respects what moves forward, not what remains in place. A Stoic man understands this moment very differently. He does not see her message as a victory. He sees it as information. Just information. Nothing more. And the way he responds reflects something deeper than confidence. It reflects self-control. The first rule: do not respond immediately. Most men believe responding quickly shows interest. But what it actually shows is availability. When a woman messages after a long silence and receives an instant reply, it subtly communicates something powerful. Your attention was waiting. But a man who has rebuilt his life during the silence does not operate this way. He has responsibilities. Work. Friends. Goals. His day is full. So when a message arrives, he does something simple. He finishes what he is doing. He continues his life. And only later, when it naturally fits his schedule, does he respond. Not hours of calculated delay. Not childish games. Just a calm understanding that his life does not revolve around a notification. This small act changes the emotional dynamic more than most men realize. Because for the first time, she feels something unfamiliar. Uncertainty. Why didn't he answer yet? Is he busy? Did I interrupt something? And this uncertainty is not negative. It is actually the beginning of renewed curiosity. The second rule: keep your first response simple. Another mistake men make is over-communicating. They send paragraphs. Ask many questions. Show excitement. But the Stoic response is different. It is calm. Short. Grounded. If she writes, "Hey, how have you been?" the inexperienced man may respond with something like, "I've been good. I was actually thinking about you the other day. It's been a while. How are you? What have you been up to?" This immediately gives away emotional investment. But a man who understands emotional balance may simply say, "I've been well. Hope you're doing good too." That's it. No pressure. No chasing. No emotional flooding. just presence. Why is this powerful? Because it forces her to do something rare. Continue the conversation herself. And when someone invests effort into continuing a conversation, they begin subconsciously investing in the connection again. The Stoics believed something important about communication. A wise man speaks only as much as necessary. And in relationships, restraint often creates more intrigue than expression. The third rule, do not return to the old dynamic. Here is the real danger. When two people reconnect after distance, there is often an invisible gravity pulling them back toward old habits. Old jokes. Old routines. Old emotional patterns. But remember something critical. The old dynamic is exactly what led to the silence in the first place. If you return to it immediately, nothing has truly changed. And without change, attraction rarely grows. This is why the Stoic man maintains a quiet emotional boundary. He remains friendly, relaxed, respectful. But he does not immediately give her the same level of attention she once had. Because attention, like time, is valuable. And valuable things are not given away carelessly. This does not mean ignoring her. It simply means maintaining balance. She sends a message. You respond calmly. The conversation flows naturally. But you do not abandon your life to keep the conversation alive. You let pauses exist. You let space breathe. And slowly, something interesting happens. She begins investing more effort than before. When she tests you. At some point during these conversations, many women will do something subtle. They test the emotional waters. She might say something like, "Why did you disappear like that?" Or, "You changed, you used to text more." This moment is extremely important. Because your answer will reveal whether your silence came from strength or from wounded pride. If a man responds defensively, explaining everything emotionally, the mystery disappears. But the Stoic response remains calm. Something like, "I just focused on other things for a while." Simple. No blame. No accusation. No emotional tension. This answer communicates something powerful. Your life continues regardless of the relationship. And paradoxically, that independence often makes a man more attractive. Because emotional stability feels safe, predictable, grounded. The reaction that creates regret. Now here is something fascinating about human psychology. People often recognize value only after experiencing absence. During the silence, she may have assumed you would always remain emotionally available. But when she sees that you return calmer, balanced, and less reactive, a quiet realization can begin forming. Maybe I misunderstood him. Maybe he was stronger than I thought. Maybe I lost something real. And these thoughts rarely appear all at once. They grow slowly. Conversation by conversation. Interaction by interaction. Until one day she notices something surprising. You are no longer chasing her attention. You are simply sharing moments with her. And sometimes, that difference is enough to awaken a feeling that was previously asleep. Respect. And respect is a powerful emotional seed. Because once respect grows, attraction often follows. The Stoic mindset behind it all. At its core, this approach is not about making someone regret losing you. It is about becoming a man who does not lose himself in relationships. The Stoics taught that peace comes from mastering what is within your control. Your reactions. Your emotions. Your choices. You cannot control whether someone loves you. But you can control whether you abandon your dignity for their attention. And when a man maintains his dignity, even after distance, even after silence, he becomes something rare. Someone stable. Someone calm. Someone difficult to replace. Part 3, The Power of Calm Detachment. There is a quiet transformation that happens to a man after he has gone through enough heartbreak, enough confusion, and enough emotional chaos. He stops reacting. Not because he no longer cares, but because he finally understands something most people never learn. Attachment without self-control leads to suffering. When a woman returns after silence, the inexperienced man focuses on one thing only, getting her back. But the experienced man focuses on something very different. He focuses on maintaining his inner balance. Because he knows that the moment he becomes emotionally desperate again, the dynamic will collapse back into the same pattern that once pushed her away. And this is where the philosophy of the Stoics becomes powerful. The Stoics believe that peace comes from mastering the inner world before trying to control the outer one. In love, this means something simple but profound. You care. But you are not controlled by what you care about. And when a woman senses this calm detachment, something unusual begins to happen. She starts seeing you differently. What calm detachment really means. Many men misunderstand detachment. They think it means becoming cold, distant, or emotionally unavailable. But true detachment is not indifference. It is emotional independence. You enjoy her presence. You appreciate the connection. But your happiness does not depend on her messages, her attention, or her approval. Your life is already full. This difference may seem small on the surface, but psychologically it changes everything. Because people naturally value what is not easily controlled. If your mood rises and falls based on her responses, she subconsciously realizes she holds emotional power over you. But if you remain steady, whether she messages you or disappears for days, you communicate something deeper. You are centered. And a centered man creates emotional safety. Not the safety of predictability, but the safety of strength. Why women respect emotional stability. One of the biggest attractions in a man is not charm. Not wealth. Not even confidence. It is emotional stability. A woman wants to feel that the man beside her is grounded enough to handle life. The man who panics when she pulls away. The man who becomes jealous easily. The man who constantly needs reassurance. These behaviors quietly signal emotional fragility. But the man who remains calm in uncertainty sends the opposite message. He communicates strength without saying a single word. And when she notices that you are no longer easily shaken, she begins to reconsider the version of you she once knew. Because the man she remembers might have been more reactive. More available. More eager to please. But now she sees something new. You listen. You respond calmly. You don't over-explain. You don't chase. And slowly, she begins to feel a subtle shift in the emotional balance between you. You are no longer the one seeking validation. The moment she starts watching you. Once this shift begins, something fascinating happens. She starts paying closer attention. Not just to what you say, but to how you behave. She notices that you don't text constantly. She notices that sometimes you reply later. She notices that your conversations feel relaxed rather than intense. And this creates a kind of quiet curiosity. Because humans are naturally drawn toward people who seem emotionally grounded. We want to understand them. We want to get closer to them. This curiosity often leads to small tests. She may ask questions about your life. She may try to see whether you are seeing someone else. She may even bring up old memories between the two of you. And each time this happens, she is not just making conversation. She is evaluating something deeper. She is trying to understand who you have become. The subtle shift that creates regret. Now here is where the real psychological shift can begin. During the time you were silent, she may have assumed something. That you would always remain emotionally attached to her. That if she ever came back, she could easily regain the same place in your life. But when she sees that you are calm, grounded, and slightly more distant than before, that assumption begins to crumble. And when assumptions crumble, realization begins. She might start wondering, did I misjudge him? Why does he seem different now? Did I lose something I didn't fully appreciate? Regret rarely arrives as a dramatic moment. It arrives slowly, quietly, through observation, through comparison, through the realization that the version of you she once had easy access to may no longer exist. And this realization can create a powerful emotional reaction. Because people rarely regret losing what was easy. They regret losing what became valuable too late. The danger of overplaying your hand. Now there is something important to understand here. Calm detachment works only when it is genuine. If a man pretends to be distant while secretly craving validation, the tension will eventually leak through. His words will reveal it. His behavior will reveal it. His impatience will reveal it. And the illusion collapses. This is why Stoic philosophy emphasizes inner discipline rather than external tactics. You do not act calm. You become calm. You do not pretend to be independent. You build a life that makes you independent. When your focus shifts toward personal growth, friendships, purpose, and self-respect, something powerful happens naturally. You stop clinging. And when you stop clinging, your presence becomes lighter. More relaxed. More attractive. The energy of a man who has moved forward. One of the most powerful signals a man can send, without saying a word, is that his life moved forward during the silence. You are not the same person she left behind. You have experiences. New interests. New goals. Your conversations reflect growth rather than longing. And this creates something rare. A sense that she is reconnecting with someone who has evolved. Evolution creates intrigue. Because it forces her to reevaluate the connection from the beginning. The man she thought she understood, may now be someone slightly different. Stronger. More balanced. More difficult to predict. And when that realization appears, it can spark something powerful in her mind. Curiosity mixed with admiration. And sometimes, admiration slowly becomes attraction again. The Stoic man's perspective. At this point, many men make a mistake. They start focusing again on the outcome. Is she coming back? Does she regret losing me? But the Stoic man does not obsess over outcomes. He focuses on who he is becoming. Because he understands something fundamental about life. Not every connection returns. Not every relationship is meant to continue. But the growth you gain from every experience stays with you forever. And when a man truly embraces this mindset, something interesting happens. He becomes attractive in a deeper way. Not because he tries to be. But because his life is no longer centered around being chosen. He has already chosen himself. And paradoxically, this is the moment when people often begin seeing his value most clearly. Love is actually like a mirror reflecting the inner self. When we are calm enough, we will realize that every challenge, every silence carries a valuable lesson. And that is what I want to convey through each story on this channel. If you feel that these shares bring value, please leave a like to support the channel. And don't forget to subscribe, because who knows, one day, just a small idea from these videos can change the way you look at love, at yourself. Let's continue with me, because there are many interesting things waiting for you to discover. Part 4, the reaction that makes her rethink everything. There is a moment in every reconnection when the emotional energy between two people begins to shift again. At first, the conversation feels casual. Light. Almost neutral. But slowly, something begins to change. She starts messaging a little more often. She laughs more during conversations. She brings up memories you shared together. And sometimes, without saying it directly, she begins showing signs that she is curious about reconnecting on a deeper level again. This is the moment many men lose their discipline. Because when a woman who once pulled away begins leaning back in, it awakens something powerful inside a man. Hope. And hope, when not balanced with wisdom, can quickly turn a strong man back into the same version of himself she once walked away from. But the Stoic man approaches this moment differently. He does not rush forward. He does not try to secure the connection immediately. Instead, he does something much more powerful. He remains steady. And that steady reaction often creates the exact emotional response that makes her rethink everything about you. The power of not rushing. When attraction begins returning, there is often an invisible momentum pulling two people closer again. Conversations become longer. Messages arrive more frequently. Plans may even start being mentioned. But the experienced man understands something important. Attraction that grows slowly tends to last longer. Attraction that is rushed often collapses again just as quickly. This is why the Stoic approach values patience. When she begins leaning in again, the calm man does not suddenly flood her with attention. He does not act as though he has been waiting for this moment. Instead, he maintains the same balanced energy he has shown since the silence ended. Relaxed. Present. But not overly invested. And this reaction creates something fascinating in her mind. She begins wondering. Why isn't he rushing back toward me? Does he still feel the same way? Has he changed more than I thought? These questions are not threats to the connection. They are actually what deepen it. Because curiosity fuels emotional investment. Why mystery creates emotional gravity. Human beings are naturally drawn toward mystery. We want to understand what we cannot fully read. This is why the Stoic man never over-explains his emotions. He does not hide them completely. But he does not put them all on the table either. When she asks questions about your life, you answer honestly. But you keep things simple. You allow parts of your life to remain quietly unfolding rather than fully explained. This creates a subtle but powerful feeling. She begins sensing that your world is larger than the connection you share with her. You have your own rhythm. Your own direction. Your own priorities. And when a woman realizes that she is not the center of your universe, something unexpected often happens. She becomes more curious about finding her place in it. The moment she tests the door again. As the connection slowly rebuilds, many women will eventually test something directly. They may suggest meeting. Or they may say something like, "We should catch up sometime." Or even, "It would be nice to see you again." For many men, this moment feels like victory. But the Stoic man does not treat it as a victory. He treats it as an opportunity to observe. Because words alone do not reveal someone's intentions. Consistency does. If she suggests meeting, the calm response is simple. "Yeah, that could be nice." No overwhelming excitement. No emotional pressure. Just openness. And then you allow her to show whether she genuinely wants to reconnect or whether she was simply exploring the possibility. This response communicates something important. You are not chasing the moment. You are allowing it to develop naturally. And this patience often creates a surprising effect. It makes her invest more effort in making the meeting actually happen. When she realizes you are no longer the same man. During these conversations, there will eventually be a moment when she fully notices the difference in you. It might appear in something small. Your tone. Your calm reactions. Your lack of emotional urgency. Or the way you talk about your life now. And in that moment, she begins comparing two versions of you. The man she knew before. And the man she sees now. If the new version of you feels more grounded, more self-respecting, more emotionally stable, something powerful can begin forming in her mind. Respect. And respect has a unique psychological effect. Because when someone realizes they may have underestimated your value, the mind naturally tries to correct that mistake. She may begin showing more effort. More warmth. More attention. Not because you demanded it. But because your calm presence quietly inspired it. The unexpected trigger of regret. Now here is where regret sometimes begins to form. Not loud regret. Not dramatic regret. But quiet reflection. She may start remembering moments when she pulled away too quickly. Moments when she misunderstood your intentions. Moments when she believed she could easily replace the connection. But now she sees a man who did not collapse after the distance. A man who continued growing. A man who remained calm rather than bitter. And this realization can create a powerful emotional shift. Because people rarely regret leaving someone who falls apart. But they often regret leaving someone who became stronger without them. That strength forces them to reconsider everything they thought they understood about you. The Stoic perspective on all of this. However, there is something important the Stoic man never forgets. He does not build his behavior around making someone regret losing him. That is not the goal. The goal is becoming a man who never abandons his own self-respect again. Whether she returns or not, the growth remains. The discipline remains. The calm mindset remains. Because Stoic philosophy teaches something simple but powerful. Your character must remain stable regardless of external outcomes. If she reconnects sincerely, you can explore that connection. If she disappears again, your life continues forward. You are not shaken by either possibility. And paradoxically, this is exactly the kind of inner stability that makes a man deeply attractive. Not because he tries to be. But because his life is rooted in something stronger than temporary emotions. Part 5, The Man Who No Longer Fears Losing Anyone. After silence, after distance, after the unexpected message that reopened a door you thought was closed. There comes a deeper realization many men eventually reach. And it is this. The true power was never in making her come back. The true power was in the man you became while she was gone. Because silence has a strange way of revealing things. It reveals who you are when no one is watching. It reveals how you handle loneliness, uncertainty, and rejection. And most importantly, it reveals whether your identity is built on someone else's attention, or on your own inner foundation. A Stoic man eventually understands something that changes the way he approaches love forever. You cannot control who stays in your life. But you can control who you become when people leave. And once you understand that, something inside you becomes incredibly calm. The moment fear disappears. Most emotional suffering in relationships comes from one hidden fear. The fear of losing someone you love. When that fear controls a man, it shapes his behavior in subtle ways. He becomes overly accommodating. He avoids conflict even when he should speak up. He sacrifices his boundaries just to maintain harmony. And little by little, he begins losing something far more important than the relationship itself. He loses his sense of self. But the man who has experienced silence and survived it learns something powerful. Life continues. The sun still rises. Your goals still matter. Your growth still moves forward. And once you experience that truth deeply enough, the fear of abandonment loses its grip. You no longer see love as something you must desperately hold on to. You see it as something you can welcome without losing yourself. Why this changes the way she sees you. When a man reaches this mindset, it subtly transforms the energy he carries. He is no longer trying to impress. No longer trying to prove his worth. No longer trying to secure someone's affection. He simply shows up as himself. Calm. Present. Grounded. And people can feel this difference immediately. Especially someone who knew you before. When she sees that your confidence no longer depends on her attention, it can create a quiet moment of realization. The man she once believed needed her, no longer does. And strangely, that realization often creates a deeper attraction than any pursuit ever could. Because genuine independence is rare. Most people seek validation. Most people seek reassurance. But the man who has learned to stand firmly on his own emotional ground becomes something different. He becomes stable in a world full of emotional noise. The quiet regret that sometimes follows. Now, not every woman will regret walking away. Life does not follow perfect stories. Sometimes people move in different directions. Sometimes the connection truly belongs to the past. And a Stoic man accepts this without bitterness. But sometimes something else happens. She begins seeing your growth clearly. She sees the calmness in your behavior. She notices that you no longer react with emotional intensity. And she realizes something she did not fully see before. Your value was never loud. It was steady. And steady things are often underestimated in a world that celebrates excitement and drama. But once someone experiences enough chaos in relationships, they begin understanding the true rarity of stability. And this is when regret can appear. Not dramatic regret. But quiet reflection. A thought that appears unexpectedly. Maybe I walked away from someone who truly respected me. Maybe I misunderstood the kind of man he was. Maybe I lost something rare. The Stoic man does not chase regret. Here is where wisdom matters most. The Stoic man does not chase this regret. He does not try to amplify it. He does not manipulate emotions to bring someone back. Because his focus has shifted toward something more important. His own character. If she chooses to reconnect sincerely, he meets her with openness. If she only appears briefly and disappears again, he remains calm. Because his identity no longer depends on whether someone stays or leaves. And this inner freedom is what makes him powerful in relationships. Not dominance. Not control. But freedom. The freedom to love someone without losing himself. What silence ultimately teaches a man. In the end, silence teaches a lesson that words never could. It teaches patience. It teaches emotional discipline. It teaches you how to sit with uncertainty without collapsing into anxiety. But most importantly, it teaches you to value something that many men forget in the pursuit of love. Yourself. When you learn to respect your own time, your own peace, and your own growth, something fascinating happens. The people around you begin respecting those things as well. Because the way you treat your own life quietly teaches others how to treat you. The final Stoic truth about love. The Stoics believe that happiness does not come from controlling external events. It comes from mastering the inner world. In love, this means understanding something simple. You can offer loyalty. You can offer honesty. You can offer genuine care. But you cannot force someone to value those things. All you can do is become the kind of man who never abandons his dignity for the sake of being chosen. And when you reach that point, something remarkable happens. You stop fearing silence. You stop fearing distance. You stop fearing the possibility that someone might walk away. Because you know that whoever stays in your life must meet a simple condition. They must respect the man you have become. And sometimes, when a woman sees that transformation clearly enough, she may realize something she never expected. The man she once thought she could lose without consequence has become the man she quietly hoped she did not lose forever. But whether she returns or not, the Stoic man continues walking forward. Calm. Focused. Unshaken. Because the greatest victory in love is not making someone regret leaving. The greatest victory is becoming the kind of man who never loses himself again. Conclusion. In the end, silence is not just the absence of words, it is a mirror that reveals the truth about both people. When a woman returns after a period of silence, many men believe it is their chance to recover what was lost. But a man who has grown through that silence understands something deeper. The real transformation did not happen in the moment she texted again. It happened in the quiet days when he learned to control his emotions, rebuild his focus, and rediscover his self-respect. Because silence has a way of stripping away illusions. It forces a man to confront his fears, his attachments, and the parts of himself that once depended too heavily on someone else's attention. And if he faces that silence with discipline rather than desperation, he emerges as someone stronger than before. That is the essence of Stoic love. Not coldness. Not emotional distance. But the ability to care deeply without losing inner balance. When she reaches out again, the most powerful reaction is not excitement or revenge. It is calm presence. A quiet confidence that shows your life continued moving forward, whether she returned or not. And sometimes, that calm strength is exactly what makes her realize something she didn't see before, that the man she once walked away from was never weak, never desperate, and never ordinary. He was simply a man who valued his peace enough to walk in silence rather than beg for attention. But the greatest lesson remains this. Your growth must never depend on whether someone comes back. Because the real victory is not making someone regret losing you. The real victory is becoming the kind of man who knows his worth, even in silence. Thank you for taking the time to watch today's video. Hopefully the sharing about love and lessons from this video will help you have new thoughts and find empathy. If you find the video useful, don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel and share with those around you. Each of us has our own stories about love, and I'm happy to explore them with you. See you in the next videos. Wishing you a wonderful day filled with love.